All right, welcome back to another episode of RacerX Track Examination. This one for the Oakland Round in 2023. Joining me today, number 10 in your program, and certainly number 1 in Jason Wygant's heart, as well as the rest of ours, the star of one of the most prolific feel-good moments in the history of the sport, winning that Daytona Supercross in 2018. Justin Brayton, thank you for coming on this breakdown with me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I like that you get Weege in there. It was only just a couple seconds into the video. We're already talking about Weege, so I approve. I like it.
I like it. Good. All right, JB, looking at this track map for Oakland, what is the first section or obstacle that really stands out to you?
Well, the first thing that stands out to me is the start. The start's going to be fairly short. Obviously, a baseball stadium, so there's going to be some shorter sections here and there, but in that tight 180-degree flat turn, that's going to be tough. Those are always tough. Gate pick is typically a little more crucial. We kind of seen something similar in Houston a couple weeks ago. It favored the inside gates. This one I don't think will be that much. Like, it was a pretty big advantage if you were on the inside in Houston. You were pretty much almost guaranteed to come out in the top 5 or 6. So this one won't be quite that dramatic, but look for the first turn to be pretty tight and potentially some crashes going there. It could shape somebody's whole night by just that first turn.
I'm glad that you brought that up because the first turn is used again every single lap. And judging by the track map, it looks like it has a little bit of some elevation, a little bit of berm to it. Does having a bit of berm on the first corner change your gate pick strategy at all, or are you still going for shortest route?
It will definitely help. It'll help the outside guys a lot. That way you can drive it in a little bit deeper. You can have a little something to turn on. And then what I like to look at too is not only the first turn, but the second turn. So if you're lined up next to the box, say the middle of the gate, and you get into the first turn about, say you're fifth or sixth and you drift wide, well, you're going to have the inside for that next right-hand turn. You can get a couple more guys there. So you could come out, second, third, even if you go into the first turn a little bit wide and not in the lead. So, and then that's a 180-degree big bull turn. So that's always a good one to be on the inside of. If you get on the outside, that it could definitely hinder you. So I like to look at the second turn, not only just the first turn.
Gotcha. The first thing that stood out to me is this incredibly large rhythm that after that second turn, where it kind of wraps
Mm-hmm.
around. We have two little kinks and it wraps around for one very long section, including those two little kinks in the continuous rhythm lane. We have 12 individual corners, 8 right and 4 to the left. Do you like the uniqueness that the baseball stadiums lend to the track map, or do you prefer the more uniformed football stadium as far as racing goes?
For me as a racer, I always like the football stadium. Seemed like they could do longer lanes, 180-degree bowl turns. But I will say this track that they have in Oakland, typically a baseball stadium, they have to do a lot of 90s because it's sometimes a little bit smaller. They got to be unique with the layout. But this one has quite a few 180-degree turns. So I think this is going to race really well. To your point about that long rhythm lane, I mean, it's kind of a continuous rhythm lane for a long, long time. I mean, you come out of the second turn, that right-hander, you do a long rhythm lane, and that right-hand sweeper is going to be super tricky. So however you go through that rhythm lane, you're going to want to set up that turn and where you land on the jumps that are turning, and then you continue to go until you hit that big triple. So that's going to be cool to see. I think you'll have a lot of different options. And then remember, Oakland tends to break down quite a bit. So the fastest line in practice or when the track is fresh in the heat race, that could change. And I think about Cooper Webb in those scenarios. He's always thinking ahead for that last 10 minutes of the main event. So look for him or other guys to possibly get out of the main line. Because typically they figure out a main line, right? They have Dartfish and all this different software that they can apply back at the truck with watching the video. So they'll know the fast line. But like we've seen in the past, that can change in the main event with if there's 22 bikes for 20 minutes plus a lap doing the same rhythm lane, it tends to get chewed out with dirt like we'll have in Oakland. So, and you also wonder, look, we got postponed there not long ago because the dirt was so wet. How much has it dried out? Is it going to be really, really soft? I've seen a couple pictures of the Dirtworks crew working on it. It looks really good, but it'll still be soft there. And I did notice here we've got a whoop section, left-hander into a dragon back, into a right-hander, into another long set of whoops, which I love that. I'm a whoop guy. I mean, I would have loved racing this track. I love watching it. I think it separates guys so much. But when we talk about the dirt, we talk about guys jumping through the whoops when it gets softer, right? So um, pay attention to the guys that might be better at jumping. Once again, Cooper Webb comes to mind. So with him coming off his win last weekend, um, man, it would be tough to argue against Cooper here in Oakland. He's got a good history here as well. He usually does pretty well there. So look for guys to skim early in the whoops, but then figure out some sort of jump line come main event time.
I'm glad that you mentioned wanting to ride this track. So this is your first year as a full-time retired guy. What is it like looking
Mm-hmm.
at these track maps now that you know you won't be racing them? Like, do you feel, or when you see them, or if you know when they launch them, were you like, oh man, like I wish I could race that one. I wish. Did you have any kind of doubts in that moment, or are you glad to kind of be looking at them from the safety of your home?
I mean, I don't have any regrets at all. I love the sport so much, and I've been a fan of it forever. So, for me, watching at home, or thankful I've been a part of the Race Day Live crew. I'll be a part of it this weekend as well. So I get to get my fix being there. Uh, Honestly, just the thing that I don't miss is just how fast everybody is. That 450 class right now, I can't even begin to describe how fast those guys are going at the front. I mean, it's just incredible. My last season, I was able to get a couple top fives and a lot of top tens, but to run that pace inside the top five, even top 10 now, it's so difficult. So I could sit here and say how much fun this track looks, and it would be fun to ride. Totally different thing to ride than to race. So I would love to go there and ride on a practice day. Sign me up. If I can just go there and ride practice, I'm in. But coming to the main event, the tracks just break down so much, and um, so I called it at the right time. I'm super happy and thankful for how my career went, and I'm a huge fan. I love being on this side of the fence as well.
I know that you already touched on it, but a lot of times people will look at a track and they'll say, this is an Eli track or this is a Cooper track. And you obviously said Cooper already.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody else you think is really chomping at the bit to race this layout in Oakland?
Well, I think of Anderson when I think of Oakland, mainly because he won it last year. Think of the softer dirt. He's due. I mean, being put on probation this week, he's had a lot of drama around him with just the positions that he's put himself in. It's not been good. He's well out of the championship. I think if you talk about anybody that isn't really backed up against the wall, I mean, he was my championship favorite coming into the season. I thought he was going to win Anaheim 1, and I called him to win the championship. He obviously didn't win Anaheim 1, and it's not looking good for the championship. But if he can win this weekend, take some momentum that he had from last year. And look, racers, we're all mental, right? If you had success at a stadium, there's just something about it. You go there, you have good vibes, you sleep better the night before. So I look for Anderson. I think he has a great race, and what a great position we would be as fans if he was to win, to reinsert himself into this championship talk. Then we'd have a four-way battle. Right now we have a three-way with Tomac, Sexton, and Webb, which is awesome. But as a fan, I hope Anderson can get back in there and win the race this weekend.
All right, JB, before we wrap it up, do you have any other predictions this weekend? Any wild ones?
I don't really, it's been so fun to watch. The pace at the front's been incredible. It's so cool to see Cooper back in the mix. You obviously have Kenny on the Suzuki and a new bike. His performance at Anaheim 2 was awesome at the Triple Crown, with watching him do that triple on and triple off. And that's the Kenny we all love and want to see, where he's doing things like that. So I know he's been testing a lot, so I'd love to see him get back in the mix. He's obviously had good races at all these stadiums we go to, so that would be cool. But the 450 class to me right now it's so fun to watch. It just is. It's the top 10 guys, just incredible. Even top 15. I mean, it really is pretty wild. So I'd love to see Kenny get back in the mix. He was fourth last weekend, which was solid, but a little ways off the lead. And AP having a great race. I think about Savachi doing what he's doing. as a privateer is really cool. He's tied for 8th in points right now. AC had speed like the old AC last week, is on top of the board for a long time. And then Christian Craig, for me, I had really high expectations for him coming in, and I'm sure he did for himself. But I look for him to get some more good starts, and he just needs to put himself out the front one time, and I think it'll start to click. He'll start to believe. So many storylines, so fun to watch. Excited for Oakland this weekend.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me, Justin, for this episode of the RacerX Track Examination. Be sure to visit racerxonline.com for all of your motocross and supercross news.